if Death Guard is giving you troubles, you have to try this freaking army that I am about to break down for you right now. This is actually the army that I'm really working on, getting all hobbied together right now. I was hoping I was going to be able to bring this to the WTC. I think it would have been the correct choice, but unfortunately, I saw its potential a little bit too late, and I wasn't going to be able to get the practice reps to be able to play it at a level that I needed to be able to play it at the WTC, which is the World's Teams Championships. But this list is absolutely insane. And it's the cool thing about it is that it's not limited to any one set list. It's just a few pieces that make the army operate. So let's talk about the freaking Dark Angels. Dark Angels, in my opinion, have the ability to counter the meta in a way that no other Marine faction really has right now. It is supremely good into Death Guard, which is kind of hard to say because Death Guard is like top. I don't know if you guys have played into Death Guard and you haven't played into like good Death Guard pilots, you're not really quite grasping just how bonkers Death Guard is right now. Whether you're playing against Virulent Vectorum with -1 damage, Death Shroud, or you're playing against Champions of Corruption that have full rerolls to hit and full rerolls to wound with crits on 5s with both lethal and lance Death Shroud. Or if you have Mortarian's Hammer with triple PBCs that are always shooting into things that are always going to be afflicted. It is actually kind of wild exactly how strong Death Guard is right now. So it's been a big problem for the meta. But I've been able to run this list into Death Guard approximately 5 times now. 5.5 because one we just had to cut short, but that's okay. And each time it has performed exactly the way I expected it to, and it has crushed Death Guard. And I can't say that for literally any other army in the entire game, which does not mean that this is the best army in the game. That's not the claim. That's not what I'm saying. But it does solve the Death Guard problem, and I'm going to walk you through why it solves the Death Guard problem. It struggles into Imperial Knights. That's true. The reality is who doesn't struggle into Imperial Knights right now? I mean, it's kind of a bonkers meta where 10th edition by far has been the most balanced and best edition ever. But with the points drops on both Chaos and Imperial Knights, it's been really stupid. So the current meta that we have right now, it's like you're playing Imperial Knights, you're playing Death Guard, or you're playing Chaos Knights, or you're not podiuming, basically. So that's kind of where we are right now. But what this army does do is, while it struggles in Imperial Knights, it doesn't struggle any more than any other faction, and it actually still has play into Imperial Knights. But in addition to that, it also plays really well into Chaos Knights, which is really good. So it's straight up counters Death Guard, plays really well into Chaos Knights, and it doesn't struggle any more into Imperial Knights than any other faction does. And then it's decent to good in basically every other matchup. So there's really no bad matchup for Dark Angels from what I can tell right now. And what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to give you the list that I'm currently playing, but that's actually not what's so important. What's really important is some of the pieces. I'm going to break down why these pieces work, and I'm going to show you how to utilize it on the TTS table so that you can kind of like figure out how to actually place your pieces in position on the table so that you can actually use this information instead of just, listening to some guy on the internet. Anyway. Here's the army that I'm running. I'm going to kind of deconstruct the individual pieces so that you can understand how to use it in your own list design. The cool thing is that the detachment that you want to use is really up to you. You can run this like I'm running this, which is Wrath of the Rock, but you can also easily run this in Gladius. As a matter of fact, I think Gladius in some situations might be better. The reason why I chose Wrath of the Rock is because honestly, dude, it's straight up hilarious when a Volcano Lance hits a scout and the guy rolls a 2 to wound, and the scout doesn't go boom because he's -1 to be wounded. It's freaking hilarious, and even though it's funny, it also creates some crazy durability that comes up a lot more often than you might think. Just wounding Marine bodies on 4s instead of 3s, or on 3s instead of 2s, really is a world of difference in your durability, and that can just like really shift the goalposts because suddenly your Deathwing Knights are going to be -1 to be wounded basically all the time because basically everything's going to be stronger than Strength 5, and it's just a huge increase in the durability. I also really think your ICC or your Inner Circle Companions get really strong in Wrath of the Rock as well, between the -1 to hit that they're always going to have because they'll always be led by a character, and the -1 to be wounded that they're always going to have because they're only T4, so they're effectively always going to have it. It's not actually always, like, it's only strength. If strength is higher than toughness, but, like, strength's basically always going to be higher than toughness. So -1 to hit, -1 to be wounded. If they're led by Azrael or a Librarian, they're also going to have a 4 invulnerable save. Since you're Dark Angels, you can get them that 4 Fiona Pain using the Watcher in the Dark with Azrael, or if you're close to the Lion, you can get a 4 Aura of Fort Fiona Pain on them. So really, really is a pretty big deal just how much more durable your ICC are in this detachment versus other detachments. So that's why I use Wrath of the Rock. But Gladius is freaking awesome. Like, just Gladius is awesome. I don't think I need to spell it out for you. Anyway, so use whatever detachment you want. It's fine. Those are, I think, the two best. But I've even been running this in Unforgiven, and I should do an entire separate video on Unforgiven. I think that is one of the most overlooked detachments in the entire game. I've had a lot of success with Unforgiven, and since I'm actually building all my Dark Angels now, I think I'll probably start running it at tournaments soon because it's pretty disgustingly good. All right, anyway, here's the list, and I'm going to go through the pieces. So the main sauce for the army right now is Lionel Johnson. Lionel Johnson's huge glow up in the most recent data slate has just completely transformed how Dark Angels can play the game. He, with his ability to rapid ingress turn 1, and I'm going to explain why that works. Everyone's going to be like, oh, you can't rapid ingress. Shut up. I'm going to explain how it works. Okay. In his command phase, he can choose to teleport to be picked up into reserves. Since he started the game on the board, he can use the Deep Strike ability to come down onto the board in turn 1. And he's not limited to the you can only Deep Strike in turn 2 restrictions. The reason why this works is that when you read core rules, everyone can Deep Strike whenever. It is the tournament companion that makes it so that you can't Deep Strike until turn 2. But the limitation on that is only if you start the game in reserves. The Lion will not start the game in reserves. He's going to start the game on the table. If you happen to go first, there's also no requirement for him to come back down in the same turn that he's picked up. So in your command phase, you can use his Primarch ability to pick him up, going back into reserves. Let's just say it's turn 1. And then in your opponent's turn 1, you can then rapid ingress the Lion down in turn 1. You can use this ability to stack with his native ability to get Lone Operative when he's within 3 inches of any infantry soldiers, of infantry models, to really make him kind of unkillable and do some serious shenanigans when it comes to positioning him to murder people or positioning him to score, even just score you primary is kind of amazing. So you can do things like what I have done in this list here is I've stacked him with a lieutenant with combi weapon. So I can infiltrate the lieutenant with combi weapon where I need him to be. Turn 1, I can either just teleport him within 3 inches of the lieutenant with a combi weapon. You know, using a infantry soldier who has lone op to give him lone op is a very, very powerful ability. Basically allows you to stage him wherever you need to stage him without him really being threatened by anything. You can't charge him because anything that charges the guy is just going to die. I mean, he's still like 8 attacks at strength 12, AP 4, damage 4. It's kind of brutal just how much trauma this guy can inflict on you in melee. And he's also, what is it, like 16 attacks at AP 3 damage too, if you want to charge with like a lot of infantry. So you can't charge the guy. You can't shoot him from outside of 12. And then if you do shoot him within 12, he still has a 3-up invulnerable save, and he's still T9 with -1 to be wounded if the strength is higher than the toughness. Now, he doesn't get that benefit from the Wrath of the Rock. That's just his ability now as per the new balanced status slate, which is freaking awesome. So basically, if you're playing against Death Guard, the reason why he's so freaking powerful is if your opponent doesn't screen him turn 1, and let's say you're playing against Mortarian's Hammer and they're running triple PBCs, and he just comes down, well, he can be within striking range of PBCs turn 1. He gets in, kills 1 PBC, consolidates into the next one. Yeah, I know, there's always things that can happen here. Like your opponent, maybe they're not super close together, but they're always going to be close together. And then once he's there, what the heck can your Death Guard player ever do about him? They can't bring down Death Shroud to deal with him, because if they bring Death Shroud down, the Flamers don't do anything. He's not infantry, he's a monster, which means they don't have their anti-infantry 4-up or 2-up Flamers or whatever it is. It means they're just winning him on 6s with Flamers at AP 0 or 1, which he just doesn't care about. Then if they charge him, he's going to fight first with flat 4 damage and just murder the Death Shroud. So maybe Virulent Rectorum kind of has an ability to do it, but he'll still kill the Death Shroud, and maybe only the Lord of Contagion gets to fight him. And with a 3-up invulnerable save, I like his chances. So there's really no way Death Guard can deal with him. They can't charge him with Death Shroud. They're never going to be able to shoot him with their indirect PBCs, or even with their bloat drones, because he's always going to be lone opt, especially most of the time he's going to be getting lone opt from a lone opt character. So it becomes very, very problematic for the Death Guard player to ever actually deal with him. In addition to this, you can always use his rapid ingress ability. You can always use his teleport to rapid ingress ability to steal objectives that you otherwise wouldn't be able to score, which is very, very powerful. Then, in addition to this list, we have a normal captain, and he's going to be leading some Assault Intercessor squad, and he has the Ancient Weapons Enhancement. What this does is gives him +1 AP, +1 damage, and +2 strength. So the guy's going to have a Strength 10, AP 3, Damage 3 Power Fist. This is pretty freaking bonkers, especially when you stack it with his finest hour ability. So he's once per game, he's going to get 8 attacks. The assault intercessors are going to get him re-roll wound roll, so he gets to fish for those flat damage 3, power fist attacks that are going to be having dev wounds for the one turn. He becomes a total murder fest who can just slog through the army. So it's kind of brutal exactly how damaging he becomes. The other things are basically fairly straightforward. You're going to run Azrael. He's going to lead ICC in this detachment. Both the ICC and the Intercessor Squad are going to use the same impulsor. We're going to use the taxi technique to use it, to deliver it. The ICC are actually very, very problematic for a lot of people in this detachment, seeing as they're -1 to be hit, they're -1 to be wounded. They have that 4-up invulnerable save from Azrael, and it's one of the most blendery units in the entire game. I don't really think there's anything that can survive their charge, especially since Azrael gives them sustained hits. So now suddenly all those ICC have lethal and sustained hits because their profile can give them lethal. That's going to be strength 6, AP 2, damage 2. It is kind of bonkers just how much damage and how much trauma that unit can inflict on others. And then they can also get the once per game for Feel No Pain from Azrael's Watcher, right? Then we got 2 units of Deathwing Knights, which kind of speak for themselves. A Scout Squad, Double Lancer, and a JPI Squad, because JPIs are useful, and the Intercessors are there for sticky. Now, you can also run this with Infiltrators if you want. I haven't found the need to actually run Infiltrators with it, which is really cool. So let me go ahead and like I said, you can there's things that you can swap out in this list. The sauce, though, is going to be it's going to be what the Lion does and how you utilize them. I also think a lot of people use Azrael incorrectly. They think Azrael is there just to farm CP. He's not. He's there because he is probably the greatest buff provider to any unit in the entire game. So keep that in mind. All right, so I'm going to go switch to the TTS, and I'm going to kind of show you. I'll talk more about how the list works as I'm going to be going on TTS and how you're going to use this to position yourself. If I just click this button, here we go. All right, cool. So kind of got myself deployed here. We can just kind of do this. So this is basically how I deploy. This is like what GW8. I'm just on a typical hammer and anvil build out. So inside my impulsor, I've got the captain with the assault intercessors. I've got one Deathwing Knight squad on the table, and I've got another one in Deep Strike. And then like I said. Okay, so scouts are infiltrated right here. I've got my lieutenant with combi weapon infiltrated right here. The reason for this is this gives me the ability to move where I need to move. So if I am going first, my scouts can either go forward, move block, do whatever they need to do, or they just, if I go second, they just pop back here. Let's assume that I'm going to go first in this example, just because that's what I really want to teach based off of. I go first. I'm just going to go ahead and pick I can either just run the Lion to be here, or I can be a sneaky blue, and I can pick him up, just using his Primarch ability. Now that I've picked him up, I have a decision to make. I can either I can move my lieutenant with combi weapon somewhere around here or so. My opponents might be able to shoot him, but it's still going to be actually hard to cut the angle to actually get a line on him, so they'd have to come like this way. So it's not hard to stay out of range for him. This would allow me to do is it would allow me to rapid ingress my Lion down here later to steal this objective. Now, he's probably going to put something on this objective, which would mean that the rapid probably won't work. But I could also rapid ingress the Lion right here. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to be putting my Deathwing Knights right here. They're just going to be advancing. And they'll be safe because you can't really shoot them from this angle. And so they're going to be suddenly, within 3 inches of the Lion. That means the Lion is later on just going to be able to rapid ingress right here if my opponent doesn't put anything in the center. And I know what you're thinking. You could always just, advance the Lion here. But if you advance him here, your opponent's going to know to move everything into the center to be able to, blast him. And you can't lose the Lion early on. So it's better just to leave him in reserves. The Lion can also come down right here. So basically, depending on wherever your opponent wants to position themselves, the Lion can come down. He can guarantee that you're going to score this primary. He can reinforce this, assuming that your opponent didn't move within 12 to really be blasting. And you can fiddle with that all you want. You might even want to leave yourself a little hole here so that he can even come down on this side, depending on what you want to do. And everything else is basically just going to advance up. The Impulsor is going to advance behind this. This Lancer can grab firing lanes from here, but he might not need to turn 1. This Lancer can grab firing lanes here, but he might not need to turn 1, so they might not even move. you can also, actually, before I do this, let me show you this taxi trick. So one cool thing that I do all the time, since Azrael started on the board, Azrael's going to generate CP. So turn 1, I just pop the captain out with his nerds, and then I just advance them up to come and grab this position. Once I do that, just whatever, move them out. Even say I deployed them here, so it's like a 3-inch disembark to basically get a free 9-inch move. So just roll in advance to put them up there. Now Azrael and crew can jump into the impulsor. Now I know people are going to cry. They're like, oh, well, you won't generate CP in your next turn. It doesn't matter, guys. It just doesn't matter because I guaranteed CP in turn 1. So now I'm fine. Now I have the CP that I needed, and now this impulsor can also move up wherever I need it to move. Let's say I roll in advance, I want to put it here. That's fine. Let's say I don't want to move them to blind. That's also fine. So now I'm positioned to actually dominate the freaking board. The lieutenant with combi weapon, there's just no real good angle for him here. I guess you could probably pull this one out, but if you do, then that's fine. I'm just going to end up rapid ingressing the lion somewhere disgusting for my opponent. Maybe I even move the lieutenant here just to make it a little bit harder. So now I'm in position. If my opponents don't come super close, then I can grab this objective. Like I said, it's definitely possible for them and likely for them to block it. But if they don't block it, then I can come down here in my opponent's movement phase. I can come here in my opponent's movement phase to gain me primary. I can also come here in my opponent's movement phase just because now they didn't, let's say they didn't have anything within 12 that was really threatening to the lion. Because I'm within 3 inches of infantry, I have loan up, which means that if they don't have anything threatening within 12, then they don't have anything threatening within 12. If he's staging something valuable here, now the lion's just going to go murder at turn 1, which is a huge problem for a variety of armies. Let's say they had to say like a PVC staged up here or something like that. That could be a very, very big problem. Once he's there, the Death Guard is really in a lot of trouble. That's when we also would want to start moving some other stuff out to grab onto our objectives. So it's such a powerful ability that is so challenging to counter. Him just being able to be picked up in his turn and then rapid ingress in. What happens if you go second? Very similar things. You just don't go first, right? So you don't rapid ingress turn 1 because you just won't be able to. You'll just rapid ingress turn 2, right? It just doesn't change all that much. It just means you went second and then you have an advantage of the game because generally it's easier when you go second anyway. But this gives you a huge advantage when you go first because most people hate going first, but you don't hate going first anymore because now you have unparalleled movement control of the entire freaking game. Now, once again, Death Shroud want to come down with the 6 inches and charge, Lionel Johnson. What do you care? Let's say Lion's in up here and your opponent wants to. I don't have any Death Shroud terminators, so we're just going to pretend that these are Death Shroud for right now. I'm just going to make them a little bit bigger. So the big fat Deathwing Knights are now Death Shroud. Just pretend. Use your imagination. Let's say that these guys want to come down within 6 inches and they're going to charge my freaking scouts to take my objective. No problem. I'm going to rapid ingress my lion right here outside of 9. And the second the Death Shroud charge, I'm going to spend a CP and I'm just going to heroic intervene. And then I'm going to slaughter the Deathwing Knights. It's kind of a beautiful, beautiful thing because the lion has the fights first ability. So this is a brutal thing. It basically means the Death Shroud aren't ever going to be able to operate in the game. And it also... like now that they're dead, you just basically, I don't know, do it again with the lion. Like it's fine. Even if the Lord of Contagion or whatever survives and kills all the scouts. All right, cool. I bet like now I'm just going to do this and I'm going to continue the whole story in my next turn. Maybe I pick them up again. Maybe I don't pick them up in my next turn. Maybe now I'm going to advance and charge them into something. Because that might have been enough to just like flip the entire game. You never really know. So there's just so much utility you get out of the lion that it really just changes the game. Now, if you're running this in Gladius, you can get like, that's probably begging more for the triple Deathwing Knights where you can just get the full army advance and charge turn. But Wrath of the Rock, I like 2. I also even experimented with 2 squads of ICC. I actually did the ancient weapons on a librarian leading the ICC just to give him that 4 pinball. That was also pretty cool. A lot of people like it on the Judiciar to give him the flat 3 with the Dev Wound thing. So there's lots of options here. But basically, with the way that you give the lion a loan up with your other loan ups or with your infantry, just jumping him around, it's pretty CP intensive. But you know what? It crushes games. So give it a whirl, guys. I've had unbelievable amount of success with this. I have done really, really well into Chaos Knights who basically have no armor, who just have 0 saves in melee against the lion because the lion just says, nope, you don't get saves. Because I wound you on I hit you on 2s. I have lethal. I wound you on 3s because I'm strength 12, and all big knights are now T11. Well, almost all big knights are now T11, and they don't have invulns or melee, so he crushes through Chaos Knights. He actually does really good work in Imperial Knights as well. You just got to be careful because if he's your warlord, right, and I think he has to be your warlord, then you can proc. If he fails, then your opponent's going to get a 5 Field of Pain, which is why it does struggle into Imperial Knights objectively. So with that, guys, I'm going to take off. I appreciate all of you. Hope you give this stuff a try and enjoy life. And until next time, crump on. Bye-bye.